there was a time in my life that it was as if everything was just over. You know, I was, I was done planning my burial. Yeah. So
I would like to hear
I'd
this.
conversed with someone who happens to be a designer, and I told him, I said that, my doctor said I had few days left. I'm trusting God that I won't die, but peradventure I die, I don't want people to begin to contribute money for my burial. So I asked him if he can do me the number one, he must keep his mouth shut. Number two is, can he do me the favor of designing my burial program? I told him, yeah. So there were 3 guys I spoke to.
Okay, we're live. Hi.
Good evening. Hi.
How are you doing? Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I know that you have other things you're supposed to be doing now, but you decided to be here to impact lives, to honor me, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So
You're welcome.
I'll let you introduce yourself to people that are watching, because I don't want to. I know I'll probably not do justice enough if I start talking about you from today till next year. We're going to be on this. So introduce yourself to us. You have the floor.
All right. I am Yasha Oluremi Betos, and I'm into ministry, education, and I do
You mean
business.
you're a pastor?
I prefer to say I'm a missionary.
Is that being humble?
Well, it's not about being humble, but about
Okay.
my approach, about my perspective, my approach, and sort of what I do. Yeah.
Okay. So what does it entail being a missionary? What do you do?
Well, as a missionary, I step into territories, into assignment as God instructs me.
Mhm.
Sometimes He assigned me to communities, sometimes He assigned me to individuals. So my kind of missionary, it's more of a man on assignment within the scope of God's, season. Let me put it that way. So sometimes we may be asked to intercede for a particular community within the space of a particular time. Sometimes, like this prophetess Anna, the Bible says that after she lost her husband,
Mhm.
she was going to the temple, fasting and praying every day,
Right.
waiting for the consolation of Israel. So sometimes that's what we do. Sometimes because certain organizations need to come into a particular territory, so we have to stand in the place as a watchman to bet it first in the spirit, and we look forward to seeing it physically. Yeah.
That sounds fun. Thank you
Um,
so much. Thank you.
you're
Usually I
welcome.
call you Apostle Remy. And the funny thing is, I was trying to remember how we met again,
Okay.
like yesterday, and I was like, wait, we met in 2019, right?
I can't remember when.
I think it was 2019. And I've not seen you physically. Have I seen you physically?
No, we haven't. We haven't met physically.
Oh my God.
I think the time we met was around the time I had an online meeting called SSS, Same Sex and Society.
Yes, seeing sex and society. I remember. Yes. Oh my God. Wow. It's been such a long time, and ever since we have always kept in touch. So I always call you Apostle Remy.
It's fine.
Anyway, I know you're just trying to. What's no problem. So I want to ask you questions about your gender, being a
All
man.
right. All right.
Now I know that in a sense, I feel like the society maybe it's emasculating men, but it's they kind of like put little credence to men being weak or men being emotional. So they see you as, oh, you're a man, you're crying, you're weak, you're a man, you're and like, do you understand? So being a man, especially living in Nigeria, what do you think it entails being a man? Do you think it has shaped you to be strong, or you think you were unnecessarily strong even in times where you were supposed to be weak? Or do you think there's more to be done for your gender, especially in this kind of community, Nigeria, in that sense?
All right, thank you for your question. This is a beautiful one. Beautiful because, when it comes to the male gender, I strongly
Yeah.
feel that, the world hasn't done enough for my gender.
Mm.
And I wish the kind of investment we have for the gender that, lay before they can urinate, I wish the kind of investment done for them is done towards my gender too. You see,
Mm.
being a man is a summon to responsibility. You can't say you are a man if you are not responsible enough. And the first level of responsibility is you being able to lead yourself. If you cannot govern yourself, I'm sorry, you cannot be a man in this age and time. I think the other thing I would say is the place of, being driven. Something must drive a man. It's fine that you are able to lead yourself, but what is driving you? If the devil is the one driving you, let him drive you so well. If you believe in God, let God drive you so well. If it is the society that is driving you, let the society drive you so well. Whatever is driving you, let it drive you so well.
So
Now, the
wow.
sincere truth is that as I am, I've been through different seasons in life. I've been through different phases in life. There's been days where all I do is just cry. Sometimes I quite understand what hunger is, and that's why I tell people that if you don't understand what hunger is as a man, don't blame this guy Esau for selling his birthright. If you don't
Mm.
understand what it is as a man, don't blame the Israelites for clamoring for the cucumber, the garlics, and the onions of Egypt. So the crux of the matter is the fact that, being a man is actually, like I said, is a call for responsibility. And I feel that there are loads of things that needs to be done for my gender. If at all we want to, if at all we want a world where everything will be better. So let me cite some examples, of my pain. Let me put it that way. I've had
Yeah.
instances where I've attempted suicide. I've had
What?
instances where,
Oh my God.
I felt like, nothing was making sense anymore. I've had instances where I've lost relationships. I've had different instances. So I don't know where you want me to bring it up from, but the truth
Right.
is that being a man that is weak because he cries is actually false. Because sometimes the best way for us to pass out what we feel on the inside is actually in tears. And sometimes there are people that could decipher what the tears is. There was a time in my life that after being through different things, I was able to say what I'm about to say now. So I said that it takes a different kind of woman to understand my life, because my life is like a sea that has not been charted. If you are not skillful, you cannot solve the waves of the sea. Not because it's difficult to understand my gender, but because a lot of time people want us to talk. So imagine someone is asking me, "How are you?" I will tell you I'm fine because you are not ready to know
That
how I am.
conversation. You're not really
Exactly.
ready. You're just
So,
asking, but you're not really ready.
so I'll just say, "I'm fine." And you nod your head and you go. Meanwhile, deep on my inside, I need someone to talk to. So this is it. The fear of what people will say when we become vulnerable to them. The fear of what they will do with what we say when we become vulnerable with them is one of the reasons why men choose to keep quiet. You know, I told someone recently, I said that when you're trying to be careful in the place of vulnerability, it means you are not vulnerable.
Mm, mm.
Because, for example, if I'm asking you, can you be my safe space? Men need safe space. Men need those they can just hug and cry on their shoulder. When I lost my mom, February this year, you know, Saturday into Sunday morning, so she died. You know, I knew she was going to die.
Oh Lord.
The same way I knew that my dad was dead when he died, though people were trying to cover it.
Oh
You know,
Lord.
so the same day I lost my mom, I'm the firstborn, so I agreed that we bury her the same day.
Oh Lord.
You know, and
Ooh.
some people see me and they will be like, is she a Muslim? Why are you burying her that day? This and that. And I ask them one question: what do you want me to use her body for? To be pecking her, hugging her every day without solving any problem? No, of course it won't. Now, through the whole situation, when we lost her after we buried her, I had to go back to church because we had meetings. And some people saw me and like, bele. People, you know, I was in the church. Sessions were going on. And sometimes I would just bow my head down and I would be crying. Not because of anything, but because, you know, there is need to vent it out.
Express.
You see, there was someone that hugged me that time. And, you know, naturally, I'm not the hug kind of guy. So this lady hugged me and she was saying Bele and she was trying to pray. And as I held her, you know, it was as if a burden was lifted.
Just by mere hug.
By mere hug. You see, I cry. And most
I like it. I like to hear it.
Because, you know, that's just the best way to vent things out. You see, till tomorrow, I would forever miss my dad. I will forever miss my mom. You know, I was talking to someone just recently and I asked the person, is it possible for a 30+ man to be adopted? You know, not because of anything, but because sometimes Apollos need a Priscilla and Aquila. That's just one. I could just go on to give different examples, different instances. But please hear me. You see, never open your mouth to tell a man that he is weak because he is crying.
Right.
No. Number two, you see, is that whenever a man decides to be vulnerable to you,
right,
be careful of what you do with the information. Be careful of how you handle the situation, because you might be the last person you would ever be vulnerable with.
Ooh, that hits different. Ooh. This is a lot. The first point is valid. Never tell a man not to be weak. But the second one hits different. When you mishandle the information you were privileged to get, you might just be the last person he might be vulnerable with. Ooh. I really hope people listening to this would listen well. I mean, it's sad enough that in our generation, or maybe let me say some women, I don't want to say our generation, because even the generation before now, there were people like that. It's sad enough that there are women that just want to be receivers. They are not willing to give emotionally. They just want to be babied around. They don't want to, like, they don't believe there's a baby in a man that needs to be babied. I've had times that my husband will open up to me and be like, babe, what's it on? And I'm like, because, and these are times that I think it takes sensitivity, like you said, and skill, which not every woman has. Because based on your makeup as men, you are logical and emotion is not the first way you go or you express.
Yeah.
So most times you suck it in first. It's when it's confusing. Yoruba will say, that's when you're like, we need to let it out. And so a lot of women, like you said, how are you? Fine. And that's it. They're not emotionally intelligent to know that, wait, there's a change in countenance. Oh, you said today is high. What's wrong? And it's sad. It's sad.
Like Jezebel, no?
Oh no.
Jezebel entered the house.
Yes.
She saw her husband.
Lord.
And the next thing she asks,
oh God.
I need me to speak in Yoruba. Let me say it in my own way.
Go ahead. Exactly.
Say Elijah ni. Elijah that I just, won victory for God and his kingdom. Jezebel said that, ma worry. Ni woyola. By this time tomorrow, I will give Elijah the bed of the ears. Elijah had that, and Elijah cried to God. He said it was done. What kind of woman was Jezebel? It's easy for us to paint her, in a negative light. I dare ask every young lady out there, are you as discerning as Jezebel? And those threatening your husband, those threatening your boyfriend, those threatening your brother, those threatening your male friend, if they hear the sound of your voice, can they back off? Sometimes women, we need security too.
Yeah, I like that.
I often ask questions like, I ask ladies, of course, before I got married, I know I've had to, walk into different talking stages and all and one of the things I ask people is, if I die, can you resurrect me? Because I know
we're not ready for that.
If you cannot wake me up, if you cannot resurrect me if I die, then it means that if I go off board, it's over, it's done. We're not ready for this conversation.
We're not ready because see, in these things you have said, it sounds few, but it's not few. They are deep layers. Like, we're going to start from the place of even the quality of ladies out there. Now, this show is not trying to talk down on the feminine gender. Of course, I'm feminine, but at the same time, being a relationship counselor, I've had cases that the reason the marriage is going through what it's going through, this is not me trying to justify cheating. No, cheating is all shades of wrong. But I've had cases that, truthfully, the reason the man cheated was because of the woman not being discerning, the woman being selfish, and the woman not being intelligent enough and skillful to see through the man.
Yeah.
And they are flatmates, but they are not soulmates. Yeah. Because they keep waking up together on the bed, but the man's company is about to go bankrupt, but he can't even say it at home. Bedmates. I like that.
To interrupt you. There was a time in Nigeria when they said one top guy in FCMB impregnated a staff, and people were saying different stuff. But I choose to tell those that care to listen that, do you know, one of the reasons why this man had to, of course, I'm not justifying such stuff, but one of the reasons why this man had to sleep with this lady was because at first, this lady had become the person this man could run to.
That was his home.
His home, like where him and his wife were living, was not really his home.
It was not home
that
enough.
Lady had become the home. So when he has issues, the first person he will talk to will be that lady.
Right.
So by default, he had, see, there is nakedness and there is nakedness. So by default, he is used to being naked with that young lady without removing his clothes.
Oh Lord.
You see, my gender needs someone we can be naked with. It's more like there are things you will do and say that by default, it's as if you are pressing a button and we will just open up to you straight. You see, we need to understand that we guys, let me put it this way, we are mumu. The point is we cannot.
Let's say you have a mumu button that can only be activated by certain people.
Exactly. If you don't get it, when we are around you, we can't talk. Even if we are husband and wife.
I think that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that part is what many people don't know, that.
Yeah.
See, and I say this enough because sometimes when I teach trust in marriage, I teach it as sometimes one of the reasons the man does not open up fully is when you have betrayed his trust by doing wrong stuff with the information he gave you. He trusted you with this thing, and maybe you used it to insult him later, like this, or this, that, and over time, he start opening up to you 20%, but you're not even discerning enough to know he's giving you 20%, and you're still shining your teeth with the 20%. But guess what? These things pile up. The 80% in you is kept. The other time, there's another 80% that is kept until maybe. Oh God, no, we're not ready for this conversation. Until maybe there's a person, and sometimes to some other people, it might not be ladies alone. It might be a fellow man that can see through you based on experience, and he's like, guy, now you go drink, now smoke, you go use, carry this thing away, and yeah, because you are hurt, you have bottled up a lot of things, because there are men that they have gotten to that point that even their fellow gender can press that button and it will be activated, and they start going to club, they start going to bars to drink, to get drunk, to start smoking. I think every woman, I'm just going to say this out to everyone listening, if you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, please be sensitive to your man. Men are babies too. Men need security too. Oluremi, this is a lot. This is a lot, to be honest.
Let me say this to just just agree with what you just said. There was a time in my life that it was as if everything was just over. I was done planning my burial. Yeah. So I'd conversed with someone who happens to be a designer, and I told him, I said that, my doctor said I had a few days left. I'm trusting God that I won't die, but peradventure I die. I don't want people to begin to contribute money for my burial. So I asked him if he can do me the number one. He must keep his mouth shut. Number two is, can he do me the favor of designing my burial program? I told him, yeah. So there were 3 guys I spoke to. One guy was meant to design. So the other guy, I just needed to give him some details. Some things I have in different places, who I want to give them to, how I want to do it. Like I'd perfected the whole thing. Around that same time,
you were leaving.
I was so close. I was leaving. What I'm telling you, aside those guys, no one is aware. No one is aware. You see, around that same time, I was close to taking solace in smoking. Yeah. Because I felt, I've prayed, and please, I've prayed. It's as if nothing was coming out of it. And naturally, I don't disturb people in perspective. So I felt, can I get someone to teach me how to smoke? I've never smoked before in my life. And can I get someone to teach me how to smoke? Let me just start smoking. Probably if I start smoking, I will just feel I'll be in the cloud. But around that time, what brought about the gateway, let me put it that way, was the fact that I had an understanding that even if I start smoking now, by the time I'm out of the cloud, I will be back to the issue. When I realized that smoking will not solve it, nothing will actually solve it, than to deal with what it is, then I said, there's no point smoking. As young as I am, I've done, there's nothing you can think of that a guy can do that I have not done, except for a few things. And, if I begin to reflect and consider the things that led me into it, one of those things is the fact that, over time, I got to a point where I trusted people and, even holy people, amen.
So-called Christian.
I trusted people. Something happened this year, and someone I respected told me that nothing has ever worked in your life.
No way.
I thought this one you just did would actually work, but it's not working out.
No way. Wait, Apostol, sorry.
Yeah.
I will let you pause there, and I want to say something. This is something I keep saying to people. Words are seeds. Yeah. You can't just wake up and think of suicide if there have not been seeds sown.
Yeah.
People don't know the weight of what they say, how it destroys self-esteem, how it destroys someone's hope.
Yeah.
How would you tell someone nothing has worked in your life? How? How mean? How insensitive? How what?
So after the scenario, I thought about it, and I had to block that person.
That's the best thing, actually.
But a time came that I realized that blocking the person will not solve any problem. So I unblocked the person. And I got to a point where I realized that, whatever that person says does not have power over me, except I give those words power.
Please say it
Number
again.
2, whatever that person says does not have power over me, except I give those words power. Number 2 was that I told myself that, you see, number 1, I have no point to prove to this person. Yeah. Yes. But much more than that, then I told myself that, I need to come to a place where I realize that not just that whatever anyone says does not have power over me, but much more than that is that whatever you say, whatever negative things you say, negative thoughts you have, I would still choose to respect and honor you. If you are able to get to that point, you realize that, people won't, people won't really count. And put it that way.
That's the point where your validation comes from within and not from outside.
Yeah, exactly.
So what people do and say are like, the real thing is, that things are working in your life and things have worked in your life. Yeah. So that person's perspective is not the perspective you choose to see.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. But to be honest, it takes a level of growth to get to this point where you can actually sieve out what people say and tell yourself, what they said is not me. I think for an average man, we live based off the opinions of people. It takes self-growth to refine yourself and say, I will define me and you have to accept it like that. You will not define me, and I accept it.
Perfect.
But it's funny how people don't realize these things, the power of our words, the power of our conversations, and how much you can destroy a person. I met with a lady that said to me in confidence. I was talking to her about character and her being better to get married. And you know what she said? She said, "Sister Ayo, mi ò lè rọ́kọ." I was like, where is that coming from? Based on everything, the conversations we have had, how? And she said, I had to like have a session, deep dive session. Let's talk about this. Where did this come from? And I realized it came from a person she was with that said to her, constantly said it to her, that if I don't marry you, no one else will marry you. Like, your image is attached to me. You are not worth any man. And she sank that in so much that it became an identity that she would never see anyone to get married to. She's still in the healing phase, but I'm telling you, based on experience, that it's taking a lot to unlearn what she has learned. And I think as believers especially, we need to get to a point that, you know, when the Bible says, Allah bayada, we need to season our words with grace. I don't care what. But when you understand that your interaction and encounter with people is enough to make or mar them, we will become more sensitive. To be honest, thank you so much for this. This is really, really interesting. This is really interesting. And I have a question. I would say, what's the balance? Knowing that one person cannot be everything to you, what's the balance in when you get married? Because I know you're married, so you can talk from that perspective. When you're married, unburdening your problems to your partner and knowing that your partner cannot still be everything, no matter how skillful they are, your partner cannot take off all the burden from you. So what's the balance?
Well, I don't know how what I'm about to say will sound, but the truth is that I would love to talk about it from the standpoint of a man. And the truth is this, you see, we have to grow to a point where we realize that, you know, we can love someone enough to accommodate the wrong things they are doing to us. You know, we can love someone enough, you know, so much that when they say they want to go, we allow them to go out of love. Now, so when we get to that point in our journey in life, we would realize, permit me, I want to Christianize this conversation, we would realize that the best friend we will ever have is the Holy Spirit.
Oh, glory to God.
You see, we need to understand that conversing with people is in layers. So as a man, if you don't grow enough, you will realize that you will keep having issues with people, with your spouse, when you are having some conversation that your spouse or people or your team cannot handle. You see, Jesus, when he was conversing with his disciples, he said, I have stuff to tell you guys, but you can't bear it now.
Yes.
So it is part of it should be part of us to understand that when whosoever we are conversing with, our spouse, our friends, whoever, we must be able to weigh, you know, their level so much that, you know, we can say whatever we want to say in a way that they can bear it. See, you are not a Christian man if you open your mouth and just talk to people in a way they cannot bear. Because even Jesus, with us now, with the disciples then, when he's conversing with us, he speaks at our level.
Right.
That's why we would realize that, two different persons, they are able to come up with the same idea, but the idea came about in different ways at different time.
Right.
So that's
And they
why we hear
communicate
stuff like
differently.
revelation. What do you say?
I say, and they also communicate the ideas in different manners.
Exactly. It's just about their capabilities. Jesus was talking about a parable, and he said that the man gave them based on their capability. That's why we also say that revelation is progressive.
Yes.
So can my spouse undo this conversation the way I want to put it?
The way.
Okay.
That's
Are there
the word.
way?
The way.
The way I want to put it. Yeah. Are there other ways I can have this conversation? And if you look at it, if this guy, I've forgotten his name, there was a prophet that had to go meet David, to confront David of his sin. Was it not Nathan? I've forgotten his name.
Yeah.
So
yes.
When
Nathan,
he went,
yes.
look at the way. Right. Look at the way he had the conversation. It wasn't like, King David, you slept with. No. So we need to understand that. Can this person now? At the same time, I think we also need to stress the fact that, you see, no matter how somebody converse with you, I'm talking about the other side now, which is the balance. No matter how someone converse with you, you also need to understand that, you see, this person is speaking to me based on his or her level. Kò lè sọ ju bó ṣe sọ yẹn lọ. Kò mọ̀ sọ ju bó ṣe sọ yẹn lọ. So even if what the person said is hurting you, receive it first. Then you will now need to have the conversation with that person. Because that person may not know that how he or she is conversing with you is hurting you or is paining you. But imagine a case where someone converses with you and you had to tear it off. There will be fights. But picture it this way. Okay, accept it. It's painful to you, but take it first. Then now raise that conversation with the person in a different way. So if we all see this thing, first and the second way, we'll realize that we'll be better for it. But honestly speaking, you see, I want us to understand, especially to those that are planning to get married. Let me say it this way. You see, there are things that will always happen. Marriage will test your convictions. Marriage will test your patience.
Right.
There are stuffs in you that there are battles in you feel you've won. That the moment you get married, you have to fight those battles again. Adventurous is listening to me, and you feel that I'm a minister, I'm anointed, I'm this, I'm that. Guy, calm down. Calm down. How you will handle your relationship with your spouse goes a long way. So conflict will definitely happen, but how do you intend resolving the conflict? I love to paint it this way. A marriage is about two different persons, two different histories, two different backgrounds, two different exposure, two different experiences that we are trying to bring together to paint one picture. Right. So it's like we are bringing blue and red. We want to have purple. So if the proportion of these colors, if it's not proportional to each other, we will not have purple. We may have violet. More of blue or more of red. So the point is, we need to understand that, you see, when I was getting married, I actually cried. Especially at the place where I took my vows.
You're part of this man.
I cried not because my dad was not there. No, that may be part of it. But I cried because I realized that this marriage will change the dynamics of my life. You know, I remember that in that auditorium, my former workplace, the former church I had to work with, some of the senior pastors were there. And so when the person preaching was preaching, that man just looked at me. They know that I'm quite dogged, quite principled, I'm quite straightforward. So, but you know, for example, let's assume that my wife does not align with time, you know, and I'm a time person.
I like how you put it. Does not align with time.
So, you know, let's assume that it will take my wife 1 hour to align to the time. So if you are going out by 10, it means that, you know, I must ensure that she has started her process by maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes to 9. So it is in the middle of our process that I will also start my own process, so that by 10 we can leave the house together. But this is it. Do you know, naturally I wouldn't do that with my associates.
Oh yes, I had this problem with my husband when I just got married. I'm sorry to cut you. Like when we just got married, my husband was like, "Oh babe, we have to leave now. This." I said, "Yes." He said, "Just one more thing." And I noticed it happened a few times. My husband was like, "Babe, you're always making us late," and I was feeling attacked. Like, can't you just be kind enough to understand that it's taking time? I'm not intentionally wasting time. But he was seeing it like I was wasting time until we had to talk about it. And he was like, okay, this is what will happen. So what happens is, anytime the event is maybe 7 a.m., my husband would have woken me. Oh yeah, start doing this. So I think the part is understanding that naturally you wouldn't do that. So on the part of the woman, she has to see it as you coming into the middle. And on the part of the man, he also has to see it as the woman also waking up earlier to dress up is also her coming into the middle. And that's how it works. Not one person trying to say, I will leave you at home, we won't live together. And the second person trying to say, be going. Don't stress me. Thank you so much. That was really good. That was really good.
You're welcome.
That was really good. Thank you so much. Now, you said something that I would like to just emphasize, which was when you said it is wisdom on the part of a man to also know that there are things you want to say to a certain person, especially your spouse, but the level of that person determines the way you say it to your spouse.
Yeah.
And I think this is the other extreme. The first extreme is there are men that they want to be vulnerable, but their women cannot handle it. And the second extreme is there are people that they have not even tried to be vulnerable because there's already a stereotype like no woman can handle me. So that way they don't know how to say things in a way that the wife would understand. And I want to give a very practical scenario. When I personally believe, my own school of thought, that in marriage it's possible that you are attracted to someone of the other gender that is outside your spouse. It is possible. And I believe that the right thing is that you open up to your spouse to let them know, hey, there's someone at my workplace that he treats me nicely and I'm beginning to like him or something, right? But it is wisdom for that man to tell me about this in a way that, babe, I think there's a lady that is trying to get at me, and I don't know, I'm just finding myself thinking about her more, compared to him saying, oh, my wife must be skillful to handle me. So he just comes and say, I like someone else and she's finer than you. Like, bro. They're trying to pass it's an information or a type of information that is important, but the way you pass it also determines how a skillful woman now can accept it and can help you. So I think it's something that men also need to know, that there is a way that, and the way differs for different people.
Yeah.
For some women, you can just say it jokingly and be like, okay, you get one babe where they like now, and she's fine. Like, she just say, well done. Make she not touch my man. Oh, she's fine. And there's a kind of woman that you have to take her out for lunch first, tell her she's beautiful in 100 ways, then say, babe, I know you're beautiful, but I find myself, I'm thinking about you, but I find myself thinking about someone else. And I say, I say, no, 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 I'm nothing. I'm just telling you. Oh
Yeah, yeah.
God. Oh my God. Thank you so much for raising that. Thank you for raising that. Thank you for raising
You're
that.
welcome.
Time is fast spent, but there's one more thing that I'd like to talk about, which is this is going to be the ending part.
All
I
right.
would have loved to talk about something else, but you brought it up already, like losing your dad and losing your mom. And
Okay. Okay.
what I really wanted to hear from that part was you already said it, that even when you lost your mom, there was a time you were in church and you bowed because you felt the pain. It really hurt you deep down. And I like the fact that you let yourself express it. And the thing about grief is, I don't think it ends. The impact could just reduce over time. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean next year you wouldn't wake up one day and miss her or miss him and still be teary about it. But the impact could reduce over time. Maybe there was a time you would cry 10 hours, now it might be 8 hours. And maybe one time it might just be, oh, mom, I miss you so much. And that's it. It's like, but I think we should, as a society, as people, as spouses, we should allow people grieve the way they want to grieve. It
That's it.
is, yes, it is wrong to compare people like, hey, why you should not take you this long, right? So thank you so much for raising that. But the last thing I would like to ask you is,
Right.
based on your experience in marriage, what would you say are the three most, okay, wait, before that, describe marriage in one word from your perspective. Describe marriage
Marriage,
in one word.
one word.
Mhm.
School.
Okay, I like that. Never ending, never ending. Learning never ends. Right. I like that. I like that. Now, but the next thing I was going to say, which is the last thing, is in your experience being a married man, what are the three most profound lessons you would say you have learned and you would like to pass on as a baton to the next set of people coming into marriage, especially in ministry or people that are in ministry generally, and also something that applies to, maybe you give us two that's general and one that applies to ministry people.
Wow. I actually thought this question will not come because I was hoping that I was going to talk about it sometime in the future. All right.
Okay,
So,
do you want to talk
yeah.
about it now or not?
I will. I
Okay,
will. Yes, I will. All right. So, three things: two general and one for those in ministry.
right.
Number one is that how do I put it now? How do I put it? All right. So, the first thing I would say is display affection. If your spouse wants you to display affection, display affection. If your wife wants you to display affection, you see, like I said stylishly, that I'm not really the emotional person.
Hard guy in the mud.
And at the same time, I've come to learn that what I just said. I've come to also learn that sometimes when there's an issue between you and your spouse apologize, and you say it's fine, for her to believe that it is fine, she would want to hold you. She would want to touch you. I think we need to do well at mastering how our spouses receive forgiveness, receive apology. So me saying that display affection, if your spouse wants you to display affection, is just a summary of different things, a summary of how you communicate forgiveness to your spouse, a summary of how you communicate love to your spouse, a summary of how you communicate security to your spouse. It's a summary of different things. You see, sometimes as a person now, there are things that I really don't like doing, but for the sake of my spouse, I have to do it. For her to know that I've always loved her, I still love her, I have to do it. For her to know that I chose her and I will always choose her, I will have to do it. Number two is what I've said earlier. You see, communicate with people communicate with your spouse, not people now, at the level where they can bear it. You see, if you don't communicate with your spouse at the level of your spouse, by the time something happens and you hear that conversation outside, you will feel that your spouse, betrayed your trust. That is very, very important. Now, the third part, I don't know the parts you will choose for those in ministry now.
They will choose it themselves.
The third part is the fact that, you see, as husbands and as Christians, there's something God told me about, and I call it Christian husband imperatives. I want us to understand that there are things that we cannot negotiate as husbands. I tell people, singles in relationships, you're married, that if you're a single guy and you are interested in a lady, there's no big deal if you are giving the lady allowance every month, because Jesus gives us allowance.
Okay.
See, as a man, you have to grow. I'm saying grow because that is how you can understand it. You have to grow in all sense. Of course, I hear people say that it's 50-50. She brings money, I bring money. She does this, I do that. All right. Are we doing 50-50 with Jesus? Are we? Paul said that, husband, love your wife as Christ loves the church and gave up himself for her. As a Christian husband, either you are in ministry or not, you need to get to that point where you are able to love your wife to the point where you can give up yourself for her. That means if you have this understanding, no matter what happens, there won't be issues per se. The other part to this third thing I'm saying is you must be able to engage, in washing your spouse with the water of the word.
That's grooming.
It's a must. Sometimes you see, not even sometimes when people see your wife, they expect to see a reflection of you. But this is it. Imagine a case where you know that the kind of place you are going to, the best thing that you feel your wife should wear is slippers. There are some classic slippers that our ladies wear. Not slippers, but your wife does not like slippers. Now, how you bring her to a state where she fall in love with slippers in that kind of scenario is your responsibility. Because we find Jesus in different scenarios doing that for us. The last part of this third part, and I'll just say, and I'll just keep short, is the fact that, you see, the Bible says that present her to yourself. Jesus will present the church to himself as a bride without spot, without wrinkles, without blemish. You see, I don't know how best to put this, but let me say this to guys out there. And I will start by saying this. I conducted a research during the time Muslims were fasting, and we realized that most of the ladies into prostitution, into hookup, they are actually Christians and they are workers in the church. So that gives us, an information, a very important one, that as the days mature, as time ticks, the kind of sisters we are going to have will be sisters with thick body count, thick sexual experiences. right? So now this is it. You as a Christian husband, either in ministry or not, you have to grow to a point where no matter what has happened to your wife sexually, no matter the wounds, the injury she has incurred, you can present her to yourself as a bride without spot, without wrinkles, without blemish. It's not as easy as I'm saying it,
It's not.
but to grow into it. May God give us understanding.
Amen. And see, the last part you just talked about, maybe because I'm feminine, I would say something. Of course, I understand that in every generation there are bad people, there's the worst kind of people, and there are also the best kind of people. So that because some men might be listening to this and be thinking, hey, women don't finish for church. No, they are still good women. And it does not mean people that have that kind of it does not mean people that have those kind of past are not also good women now. What matters is what they are doing now, not who they were, as long as they are changed, right? But if some people have certain kind of ticks, like I want to marry someone that is a whatever, if that's your tick, ask God for it, he will help you. But I think I would also say that there is a part that I think one of the things that is allowing many women go wild. Two things. I'm a mental health advocate, so I will talk from that perspective. Number one, many of them don't have fatherly love from home.
Yeah.
There's a void in them where they need a male figure. So they always want to get it filled in different ways. This is about people that are not doing it for money. Even for some doing it for money, what led them literally was because they did not have that father figure. So they needed to fend for themselves. They needed to get affection somewhere else, and this was the best way for them to do it.
Yeah.
The second is some people did it because they were molested or raped at a very young age, and they feel condemned deep down. This is the best way of escape, even though some of them are believers and Christian, saved. But there's still a wound, like you said, injury, that is because of what trauma, that's the best word, that is because of what one person did. And the best way they can express it is this. Like I said, I didn't know I was also going to mention this part, but maybe I'm talking from a place because I'm also an ex-molestation, what's it called? What do they call it now? Victim or something.
Yeah,
but yes, there are people that their childhood was a big deal. Because I remember growing up, there was a certain stage in my life that I wanted to go bad. Think of bad. Think of rotting. Think of I wanted to go wild. Like, see, let's get to it all. But thank God for Jesus, because Jesus was like, you're not going to be a lost cause. And but it's I would say thank God for Jesus and thank God for the people I was around, because it's not because God loves me specially, because there are people that also went that route because they don't have the opportunity to have people talk to them about healing mentally. And I see it all the time. As Christians, many times we focus on spiritual healing, spiritual cleansing. People are rotting, like they are getting rotten every day mentally because of things they went through mentally. Emotionally, some people are nowhere to be found. They have been heartbroken. See this heartbreak we just talk about. It's heartbreak, breakfast. It's not a breakfast like that. It hits different at some point, and some people are just rotting. I just hope that the nuggets you dropped, Apostle, they are really, really, really great nuggets. And I'm so glad that you opened yourself up to us. I'm so glad that you made yourself an open book today. And I hope that a lot of people will listen to this and find healing and find rest and understand that, like someone said, and I love to say, broken crayons can still color. Because if someone like you, who has attempted suicide, who has planned your funeral, can still be here sharing hope, and you have still grown to a point where your validation has come from within, it shows that no matter how battered you are as human, there is still hope. There is still hope. No matter how hurt and wounded you are, there is still hope. And I'm so grateful that you decided to share this piece of yours to the world. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for being the first person on this show. Even though you have not seen any testimonial or review anywhere, you decided to come here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Ginger with Synesis will never forget you as part of the little beginning. Thank you so much, Apostle. Is there any final words you'd like to say to us or anything?
Well, let me put it this way. The last thing I'd like to say is that live your life. Live your life. Make your mistakes. When you get feedbacks, make corrections, grow.
Right.
And please, I want to make a plea. I've come to realize that the pain of death, the pain of murder, the pain of suicide is quite better than the guilt of shame. But please, don't let that be your own story. Whatever shame you may have to deal with it. You don't need to commit suicide because of shame. I'm begging you, don't commit suicide because of shame. The worst case scenario is you will relocate, is you will disappear. When I'm saying disappear, I mean you will leave where you're living, go to somewhere entirely new, start afresh. You see, as far as there is breath in your, there's breath in your life, the sincere truth is you can always start again. And listen, every day God is up to something new. So that shame is not your hand. What you do with that shame will determine what will happen next. You are ashamed. Okay, you've gone into debt. So somebody broke your heart because you did something to her. So you had an affair with somebody, something happened. So don't commit suicide because of shame. Grow, live your life, and become better. Thank you.
Ooh, these are words on marble. And I'm so grateful because one of the things that made me do this show is I watch a lot of shows. I love shows. But when people come to talk about the beautiful side of their lives, their achievements, oh yeah, I started small, but now I'm beautiful. I have 10 houses. And that was not my motivation for this show. My motivation is let's see the sad parts, but let's see how you dealt with the ugly parts. And I'm so grateful you're saying this, that no matter what has happened, do not choose the pain of suicide over the guilt of shame.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was so nice having you. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
I'm saying thank you on behalf of everybody. Thank you.